Well, today we're going to replace a wall socket. The terminals have become loose inside and they're kind of sketchy on when they make contact with something that's plugged into it. So, see how that you move it around and it flickers and doesn't make good contact all the time. So we're going to replace that wall socket. I've already loosened it up on the back because I've had it apart before I decided to make the video, but we're going to just show you here how to do it real quick. So we're going to put a test light in it, just in case you don't know which breaker is which on your circuit panel. And then we're going to go shut the power off to that breaker so we don't accidentally zap ourselves while we're doing this. Alright, now that we've checked that the power is off and verified it by checking our light here, we can proceed safely. So we'll set that test light aside. First step, a slotted straight screwdriver, and remove the attaching trim cover. Very easy to do, just a couple of turns outward. And we'll set that aside. If you're replacing the switch plate cover, they almost always come with new screws, but we're not going to replace those. Those are kind of like vintage bronze trimmed ones, and I like those a lot, so we're going to keep those. Alright, now we're going to have the actual outlet itself. It's going to have two screws in it. Phillips head or slotted, they're a combination. And we've already loosened these, we're just going to show you how we do it like that. And they don't usually come all the way out. Usually there's a little fiber retainer lock washer on the back of them that keeps them from falling out and getting lost. So you just pull them out until they're loose. Again, you don't want to do this with the power on. I've done it before that way. I've gotten zapped a few times too. And it's not pleasant. It can be dangerous too. So we're just going to work this out of the wall. There's usually enough spare wire in there so you can do it. Oh, and this one here has 4 wires going to it, 2 white and 2 black. And should be for these, we just have to release those wires. These are the push-in kind. Let me see if my new one has the push-in ones or not. I also noticed there's no ground on this, which, you know, should be, but there's the terminal over on the side bottom where the ground would go if we had one. That would be the bare copper wire would go to your ground. Here's the actual new replacement outlet. It also has the push locks or the screw locks on it either way. So we shall see what we're going to do here. And there's the rating on it, what it's rated for. Alright, we're going to go ahead and take the old one off by pressing in on the retainers next to the, well, let's show you here if I can. Alright, here's an example of the small flat edge screwdriver. Let's see if we get a good view of it here there we go. That I use to remove the wires from here by pressing down like that, and that releases the tension on the wire. This one actually snapped off. It broke in the middle when I was trying to take it out, but that's how you do it. You just push down on that little tab in that slot there, and they usually pop right out. Alright, we've gotten all 4 wires returned to their proper slotted positions in there. And we also located back in the back here, we've located the ground wire that wasn't attached. So we're going to hook that back up to that little green colored screw on the bottom left side too. And then we'll be ready to go. Alright, well, I got to say, I'm not really a fan of the push-in style connectors. I generally try to avoid using them and actually wrap the wires around the side terminals and screw them down tight, but there's not enough wire left in the box to do that. Even though I loosened the compression clamps in the back and tried to pull more cable through, there just wasn't enough in the wall for it to pull through. So unless I want to rig up some extension wires in there with some wire nuts, it's just not going to be possible to wrap them around those terminals. So we went back with the push connectors. We've got the ground hooked up though, that's a good thing. And now that's all hooked up. The last step is to carefully bend the wires back into the box so they're not touching anything, and start the screws into the mounting holes here. Once you get one side started, just make a couple, 3 or 4 good turns in so it gets a good grip, and then go ahead and start the other side and work it back and forth, working maybe a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch in at a time so it goes in fairly straight. And as you're tightening up, you're going to want to make sure that it's level, or I should say plumb, up and down, so that's nice, looks nice and vertical when it's all back together. All right, you can see we're back in place. We're going to make sure it's lined up vertically and that's not cocked to left or right. And like I say, we can push it a little bit and edge it back in if it needs to be straightened a little bit, because you want it straight so when your switch plate goes over the top it doesn't look funny or angled. And there it is, all finished. Alright, and I'd also like to mention, just in case you forget which wire goes where on this, we're going to go over that one more time. The plain bare wire, or the wire with a little bit of green on it, goes here, and we're all off to the side, all by itself. This is the ground. That's where your green one goes. And then the other ones are going to be black and white. If you forget which ones go where, they're color-coded. There's a brassy gold-colored side, and there's a silver side. The silver side is going to be your white wire, and the brassy gold-colored side is going to be your black wire. And I recommend that you strip the wires down, put a loop in the end, and use the screw-down clamps or screw-down wire connectors instead of the push pins. I just don't trust the push pins. I've never had good luck with them staying in there. So I would always use those if at all possible. And if you're replacing an outlet like this, some outlets are dual switched. Like, that is, the top part might be hot all the time and the bottom part might be on a switch. And if that's the case on it, what they do to make that work is they break off this little tab here to separate these two sides of the switch or outlet and make it into two separate circuits. So when you take your old one out, look and make sure whether or not this tab is here. If the tab is gone, then you're going to need to break that tab off with a pair of pliers on the new outlet. On both sides there's a little tab. So like I say, if the tab's on there, just use it like it is right out of the box. If the tabs are missing, break those off. You can do this yourself, save money on a service call, and remember, work safe, safety first. Shut that power off and verify it before you start working on it. Have a good day. Bye for now.